And we are back. NFL Week 10 Power Rankings. We're officially in the second half of the season now. So we're going to get right into it. Starting out at number 32, down 2 spots, we got a new team. It's going to be the Las Vegas Raiders. The Raiders are a team who I think should reconsider what they've done because you banked on Gardner Minshew having the same success he did in Indianapolis. Not happening. Aiden O'Connell gets injured, so there goes that. You trade away Devontae Adams. Looks like Antonio Pierce wasn't a great hire. I think you should just blow it up and start over because you don't really have much going for you, so you're already in a great spot to start rebuilding. So, yeah, and, well, when you're in the AFC West, you still have to play the Chiefs again, and you're the only team in there with a losing record. Good luck. Number 31, we have the Patriots. Number 30, we have the Titans. The Patriots down 5 spots. The Titans up 2 spots. The Titans ended up knocking off the Patriots 20-17 in overtime. So, yeah. But you can tell both of these teams suck because their combined record is 4-13, and they are both. Actually, I don't think the Titans are. Are the Titans? No, the Titans aren't last in their division. Fair enough. But yeah, both teams pretty much aren't in great spots. Well, the Patriots are. They, have some young guys who could turn into something. But the Titans, on the other hand, might have to be looking at taking another quarterback because like Will Levis wasn't it. 29, we have the Dolphins staying the same. They kept it close with the Bills. However, I expect that with a division game. They fell by a game winner, 30-27. They are now sitting at 2-6. And to say this season's a disappointment is true. But in all fairness to them, Tua did get injured and missed 4 games. However, in those 2 games he's been back, he's gone 0-2 with losses to both the Bills and Cardinals by 1 score. So they do have potential. It's just, I think at this point you're 2-6. Even if you have a magnificent run, you might have to go unbeaten in order to make the playoffs. And I just don't think you're going to be able to, win the final 9 games? I don't think that's going to happen. 28, we have the G-Men, the Giants. They're going to be going down. They're staying the same. They fell to the Commanders 28-23. It was a very close game. But yet again, 27-22 was the score. You kind of expect that with division games, so there's no real surprise here. And for the Giants, it's kind of the same thing as the Raiders, where you don't really have a lot going for you besides your draft pick. Although the Giants always have, some stuff. The Raiders really only have Max Crosby, so, yeah. And Brock Bowers. Giants have, Dexter Lawrence and stuff. Brian Burns. Yeah. Whatever. 27, we have the Saints down 4 spots. 26, we have the Panthers up 5 spots. The Panthers ended up beating the Saints 23-22. And this is kind of the same situation where both teams suck. There's no denying that. The same exact thing as the Titans-Patriots, where they're combined 4-13. And they're both pretty much, even though they're still technically in the race because they're not eliminated from the playoffs, they're not going to do anything, right? They're going to have to win out to pretty much have a chance. And with these teams, I don't think either of them are going to win out. Although the Saints did just fire their head coach, so, depending on how well the interim does, maybe they can make a run. But for both these teams, the Panthers, they've traded away 2 receivers now. I don't think it's going to work out for either team. 25, we have the Browns are going to be going down a spot. They fell to the Chargers. I don't remember scores, 27-10. It was. This is a sad story because you go ahead, You beat the Ravens, although same exact thing as I've said with some other games so far. It was a divisional game, so as much as it was surprise, it wasn't. You go against the Chargers, and you just look like a whole different team. Jameis Winston looked like Tampa Bay Winston, where he, was just making such risky interception-esque throws that, it's not really a good thing. And I do believe the Browns can turn their season around. However, it's the same thing I've been saying. They're going to have to win out. And as much as I like Jameis Winston, I don't think he's going to win out. 24, we have the Jaguars going up a spot. They kept it close with the Eagles, 28-23. They had a pretty interesting game. They've really struggled in the past game, and yet that was about all that was going for them, as the run game resulted in nothing. At least that's what I believe. And it's yet again another situation where I do believe the Jaguars could turn their season around. They have the roster, they have the talent to do so. They just have a coach holding them back. But they're going to have to win out, and I don't think they're going to, especially in the AFC, where you're going to have to play against, some of the top teams, and you're going to have to, win tiebreakers against those teams as well. Not going to happen. 23, we got them boys down a spot. They have had a horrible little stretch as they fall to 3-5, losing 27-20, something like that, to the Falcons. Yeah, 27-21. And the Cowboys season might be over. Dak Prescott gets injured. It sounds like he's going to go on injured reserve. Or he's going to, miss around 4 weeks. And when you're already 3-5 and, you're 2 games back of the 7th seed, if you finish 0-4 in that stretch, your season's over. You finish 1-3, your season's probably over. Heck, you finish 2-2, your season's probably over. The Cowboys can really only afford to go 3-1 and lose that one game if they want to have a chance at the playoffs. And unfortunately, for Cooper Rush or Trey Lance, or if they decide to bring in someone with the trade deadline being right now, I don't think it's going to matter. 22, we have the Jets up 5 spots. They picked up a 21-13 win over the Texans. And that's a really nice win. That was a really great game by them. They honestly played very well. The only issue is you're 3-6. So you really only have one game of wiggle room between winning from making the playoffs. I don't think you're going to win out. And I don't think you're going to lose just one game. So it sucks, especially with the team you have. You've kind of, last year you expected to do well, suffer, the 4 plays in injury. This year you're supposed to do well, and nothing has gone to plan. I think for the Texans, you might be one of the best teams to do bad. You could still turn it around, though. It's just going to, like I said, take a miracle. 21, we have the Colts down 2 spots. This is kind of in the position now where the Colts are still competing for a playoff spot. It's kind of, we're now starting to get into the middle of the pack teams. They ended up losing to the Vikings. It was a close game. I don't remember the score. I'm going to check. 21-13. You did well to hold the Vikings to 21, a team who's been notoriously well this season, but you scored 13, so you can't ever expect to win a football game while scoring 13 points. Where the Colts, I do believe that they can turn the season around. I'm actually a big fan of them. I feel like they're going to either barely miss or barely make the playoffs, just like they did last year. However, I don't think it really matters because I think they're going to get blown out in the first round regardless. But for Colts fans, you're still in the hunt, and you're still like in the hunt. You're not like, we're technically in because we're not eliminated yet. You're still alive and well. Number 20, we have the Seahawks, 4-5 down 4 spots. They ended up losing in overtime, 19, we had the 49ers down a spot. They're 4-4. They had a bye week. Number 18, the reason the 49ers went down is because the Rams, who are 4-4, up 2 spots. The Rams beat the Seahawks 26-20 in overtime. And now the Rams have went from, looking like their season's over to getting these guys back, and all of a sudden they're right in the playoff talks with, making a wild card spot or potentially even winning their division. The Seahawks are still in that conversation as well, as they're only 4-5. The Cardinals leading the division at 5-4. So that division is really close. And Seahawks are still also in that contention for a wild card spot, even though they are 2 games back. That's kind of the comfortable spot to be right now without being out of it. And I do believe both these teams do have a great chance to finish the season on good notes. It's just I like the Rams a bit more than the Seahawks to do that. 17, we got the Bears down 6 spots. They lost to the Cardinals 29-9. They did not look great. They're starting to look like the regular season self, or excuse me, not the early season self, where they really couldn't do anything on offense. However, their defense wasn't much help either. And unfortunately for the Bears, you're kind of in this weird spot where you're starting to lose these games. You start out the season really hot, and now you're starting to cool down a bit. It's probably going to be one of those where you finish the season really meh. You're probably going to be around that 9-8 win mark, and unfortunately, that's probably not good enough for the playoffs. So this whole season's going to be for nothing because you're not going to have a good draft pick, although I don't even know if you have many draft picks. Or no, you definitely do. So this is kind of one of those where you show a lot of potential and you're more of like a next year team. But what sucks is this, your draft pick's probably going to be middle of the pack. So you're not going to get the playoff experience, and you're not going to get a good early pick. So you're kind of in that middle bit. 16, we got the Bengals up 5 spots. They pick up a win, 41-24 over the Raiders. And I don't know how to feel about this Bengals team, because they go out, they do well one week, they do bad the next. And my big concern is the fact that you allowed 24 points to the Raiders. The 41 points is good. That's where the Bengals have been consistent. They've consistently scored points. However, they've consistently allowed points as well. And when you're in a situation where you're the Bengals and you're still competing for a playoff spot, that sucks because you're going to have to go against the Ravens on Thursday night this upcoming week. And then you're going to have to still play the Steelers, who we'll talk about, when we get to them, twice. The Bengals have a really tough schedule, and their defense is not doing them any favors. They're having to, attempt to win in shootouts. And, well, for them, they've lost 2 games so far this season, scoring 30-plus points. That's not good. So, yeah. They have a great offense, but their defense is holding them back. 15, we got the Broncos down 5 spots. They got blown out 41-10 to the Ravens. There's not much to talk about. They couldn't do anything on either side of the ball. And, yeah, next. 14, we got the Buccaneers staying the same. They fall to 4-5 after a close 30-24 loss in overtime to the Chiefs. And the thing with the Buccaneers is, I don't know how well they're going to do. They're one of those teams where I feel like they're really hit or miss. And for the Buccaneers, they're in a decent spot because they are still 4-5. However, you are without Chris Godwin for the rest of the season. You're without Mike Evans for a while. I just don't think you're going to make the playoffs because the uphill battle you're going to have to take is going to be very rough, and I just don't think you're going to be able to quite do it. 13, we have the Cardinals up 4 spots. They pick up a nice win, 29-9 over the Bears, and they're starting to look like one of the better teams in the league. And there's not much else to really say. They were dominant that game, offense and defense. They put up points. They didn't allow points. That's the recipe for success. And right now, they're 5-4. They're getting hot when it matters most as you're in the middle of the season, up on the second half, with a winning record, winning your division. The Cardinals could very well be talking about, probably not the 1 seed because you already have 4 losses. I don't think you're going to win out. I don't think you're going to lose just one more game this season. But, I mean, double-digit wins is most definitely a possibility, and I would not be surprised if the Cardinals reach that point. 12, we have the Chargers up 3 spots. They pick up a nice win over the Browns. One of those games with where the Cardinals, like I just said, they did everything right. They scored points. They didn't allow points. The only issue is I feel like the Cardinals played a better team. However, I feel like the Chargers are the better team, and I feel like they still have an outside chance at, winning their division, but they're looking great for the playoffs. I mean, especially with the Texans, I'll give you a little peek, we'll be talking about next, at the moment being their matchup. I mean, no, they're not, excuse me. Their matchup is a different team. I forget. The Chargers are the 6th seed. Steelers, so, I mean, I could see the Chargers winning a playoff game. But anyway, number 11 down 4 spots is the Texans. They fall 21-13 to the Jets. And one of those Halloween upsets. I think the Texans are still good because they have a 2.5 game lead on the division because they did beat the Colts twice already. So, they already have the tiebreaker over them. Titans and Jaguars aren't really doing much. So I think the Texans are in a great spot. Even if they don't have the greatest second half of the season, they will still probably make the playoffs because they're in the AFC South. That's really favorable division. However, you can really tell that the injuries are starting to catch up to this team. Being down arguably your top 2 receivers does not help. Number 10, we have them Steelers up 2 spots. They're going up because other teams are going down. They were on a bye week. Next, number 9, we have the Falcons up 4 spots. They pick up a nice win over the Cowboys. They're looking like one of the better teams in the league now as well. As with the Buccaneers starting to fall back as well, they're starting to separate themselves in the same with the Texans. They have a 2.5 game lead. So, and the Panthers and Saints aren't really doing much. So the Falcons, same with the Texans, could have a not so great second half of the season, and they would still probably win their division because their only competition is significantly worse than them, I imagine. And then, they also have that 2.5 game lead. Number 8, we got the Packers. They're going to be going down 4 spots. That was just a brutal game for them. You could really tell that Jordan Love was not Jordan Love. You could tell that injury was heavily bothering him. And then to top it off, you're going against one of the best teams in the league in less than ideal weather conditions. So that was just a recipe for disaster for the Packers. I do believe they still have a great chance, especially now that they're going on their bye week. It'll give Jordan Love an extra week to recover. I think the Packers will be coming out of their bye week looking like one of the better teams again instead of, the injured team they are now. Number 7, we got the Vikings up 2 spots. They picked up a nice win, 21-13 over the Colts. And they finally got their bounce back. They lost to the Lions. They lost to the Rams. They get their win against the Colts. And I think the Vikings are going to be heating up again. They had that little 2-game stretch where they struggled, although, one of them was a 2-point loss to the Lions. So I wouldn't count that as a struggle. Looked like it was just a trap game with the Rams. Or the Rams getting hot at the right time. And I think the Vikings will be fine. But ultimately, that's up to them because as it stands right now, they're kind of a hit or miss team. I feel like they're hot some weeks, they're cold some weeks, and I feel like they're going to kind of be on that stretch where they're going to win a few in a row, they're going to lose a few in a row. 6, Ravens, they're going to be going up 2 spots. They pick up a dominant, nice win, 41-10 over the Broncos, and they're showing that, yeah, we've had some interesting losses, but those losses aren't affecting us right now because the fact that they go out and they lose to the Browns, and then they put up 41 and allow 10 to the Broncos, seems to me like the Ravens just keep falling for trap games. But when they need to play good teams, they are on. So, great job, Ravens. You look like, you might be having another MVP season with Lamar. So, yeah. Speaking of MVP seasons, number 5, we have the Bills up a spot. They pick up a win over the Dolphins. Josh Allen probably the MVP favorite. I feel like it is a close race between a lot of guys right now, but that normally is how it is at this point in the season. I think we'll be talking about the Bills in the playoffs, though, because I hate to be that guy. It's the same story, right? They do well the regular season. They're easily one of the postseason favorites, but it always ends the same way with them suffering a brutal loss. That's going to be like, how? And I just don't know if Josh Allen is that quarterback, to get them over the hump. As talented and as good as he is, I think he's easily top 3. I would say the third best quarterback in the league. But I don't think he has that playoff success that other guys have. And same can be said for the Ravens. So, yeah. If they're able to do well in the playoffs, they're easily, I would say, top 3 team in the league. But regular season, they might be one of the best as well. Or the best. Number 4, we have the Eagles up a spot. They pick up a nice win, 28-23 over the Jaguars. And that game that was closer than it really should have been. However, I don't think there was really a point where the Eagles were like, there's a good chance we lose this game. They kind of just controlled the game the whole time. Even though the Jaguars were keeping up, the Eagles were never letting them catch up. They were just kind of letting them stay behind them. And, well, that's all you needed to do was just hold the lead until the end of the game. And that's exactly what they did. They played that game as well as they really could have without having to be worried. And, well, that's a good recipe for success. Number 3, we have the Commanders staying the same. They pick up a nice win over the Giants, although same thing, closer than it should have been. But they did the same thing where they just pretty much controlled the game. They got that big lead early on and they just coasted after that to where they didn't really have to worry. And I do believe the Commanders are, Super Bowl favorites. Not in terms of like winning, but I think they are probably a top 3 NFC team to make the Super Bowl, although I don't really know who else would make it besides, 3 obvious teams in my mind. Lions, Commanders, Eagles. But yeah, I think the Commanders are a really good team. Number 2, we had the Lions. They picked up a very good win over the Packers, really showing who the Kings of the North are this season. And I would honestly say, for the Lions, this season is Super Bowl or bust. And I don't even know if it's just this season, because they look like they're in a great position for years to come as well. They look so good. Besides their one loss to the Buccaneers, which we can bypass because it was early on in the season, they have been dominant. I think the Lions are Super Bowl favorites. I don't care about the Chiefs, who we'll talk about in a sec. The Lions, it is their Super Bowl to lose. And, it's good to say that, because they haven't won one ever. However, as a Packers fan, I am rooting for the Lions, just, a bit less now that they embarrassed my team. But for the Lions, they look dominant. They even went out and traded for Zadarius Smith because they're without Aiden Hutchinson. So even in their weakest position, which isn't even that weak, they're still making moves to try and be that top contender. Number 1, we have the Chiefs staying the same. Again, I'm baffled how they're still 8-0. They have not looked, like Kansas City Chiefs yet this season. And yet here they are still doing their thing. And they're going to stay number 1 until they lose a game, which I don't know if they will. But if this is a Super Bowl between the Chiefs and the Lions, I think the Chiefs would be worried because I think the Lions aren't the 49ers. I think the Lions will play to their strengths, and I think the Chiefs might be in trouble because they're barely winning these games, and then the Lions are dominating theirs. That is going to do it. I hope you guys enjoyed. I did. I will see you guys next time with predictions. All right. Goodbye. Hope you enjoyed.